The challenges that we've faced in terms of monitoring our sales process really stem from being able to adequately check every single policy that's being written for a customer, and we make calls to customers over the telephone. So all those calls are recorded, and all those calls at some point in an ideal world need to be checked for quality purposes. So the real challenge was doing that quickly enough and effectively enough to make sure that the quality of the advice we give is of a very high standard. Before we implemented Voice, manual checking was a very time-consuming process. We had one process whereby every call was call scored for script content, and that would take up to 5 working days. So this week's calls would be checked and returned to us scored next week. And then in terms of a deep dive into particular calls made by advisors, being checked for compliance, quality of advice, that was carried out on a more ad hoc basis, and that could take up to 4 weeks for a call to be scored and returned and an analysis presented to us. I do already see benefit from using Voice. There's definitely been value added. From a finance perspective, which is my main area, I've seen the immediate sort of cost effectiveness of Voice. To try and implement a system as effective as Voice on a manual basis could cost several times more in terms of just the physical cost of the system itself. We are starting to see a positive impact on the reduction in cancellation of policies, because we are checking policies before they're submitted to make sure that they're adequate and they're the right policy and the right advice is being given for the customer. That cancellation rate is being driven down, and I'm very hopeful the more and more we use Voice, the more that will continue. So from a financial perspective, there's definitely a benefit. Also in terms of, I think, the quality control team and their general morale and their stress levels, they've come down because they're getting immediate information on which they can act, rather than waiting and then trying to implement something under a very, very sort of harsh deadline and trying to remedy things in retrospect. That's always very difficult. So the quality control team, the morale is up and their own work is better. I would recommend Voice to other companies, simply from what we've seen, the impact in our own organisation. It's a very cost-effective tool, as I've said. Voice offers a very simple solution to a simple problem, but at the same time, there's some very sophisticated software behind that simplicity, and that's where the value comes to us. And it's a very elegant solution. I think our team have been able to pick up on it and run with it immediately, so I would recommend it to other people.